China's killing our canola. $45 billion gone. Western farmers bleed. Mark Carney? Silent. Made millions off Beijing's dime. He won't fight. He's Beijing's banker, not our prime minister.
Good evening, Western Standard viewers, and welcome to Hannaford, a weekly politics show. I'm Nigel Hannaford. It is Friday, April the 20th, and my guest today is Dr. Joseph Fournier, a longtime columnist with the Western Standard, specializing in controversial subjects, let's say. Welcome to the show, Joseph.
Well, thank you, Nigel. Appreciate you having me.
Oh, we've been wanting to do this for a long time. Joseph, you're a PhD physicist. You're an energy industry veteran, worked in Calgary in the oil sands at Fort McMurray. Down in Utah. Do they have oil sands down in Utah?
We were trying to make a run at it. They have got every kind of hydrocarbon under the sun in Utah.
But not.
2020 happened, just put it that way.
Oh, I see. All right. Well, 12 years in the pit, and you've gone deep on some of the things that affect our lives deeply. Energy security, coal mining, climate science, and policy. Basically, for nearly 3 years now, you've tried to make clear to our readers what doesn't seem obvious on first reading. It's quite a challenge. Joseph, first, a word from our sponsors. This episode of Hannaford is sponsored by New World Precious Metals, based right here in Calgary. Years of inflationary money printing and rising debt have decimated the savings of the average Canadian. Gold and silver are the only currencies that have held their value for thousands of years. Last year saw 30% gains. New World Precious Metals offers unique platforms to help protect and grow your hard-earned wealth with gold and silver. Check them out at newworldpreciousmetals.com, newworldpm.com. So, Joseph, let's get right down to the meaty stuff. You got kicked off LinkedIn recently for a while. Nobody gets kicked off LinkedIn.
Never.
What did you do?
Well,
how deep did you go?
You know, the thing is, LinkedIn, the professionals, white-collar professionals, town square, social media is where lately the last couple of years where I've been usually posting my comments, my articles I write for Western Standard, other long-form pieces. I have no idea what it was that I posted. Sad. That got me restricted for a few weeks. This is the second time this year. And, you know, one thing that I tend to...
Did you ask them?
Many times.
Yeah. And how does it go when you take things up with LinkedIn?
Well, it's not like you can pick up a phone, right? It's like an automated help desk. You try to send them a message. I tried both through the help desk on X, as well as try to get back in through a identity verification step on LinkedIn. And probably about 36 times I tried. But
you've tried 36 times
to
find out why you have been restricted on your use of LinkedIn.
Right.
And you still don't have any idea.
No, I think one of the things that happened was I've got about 14,000 followers on LinkedIn, and a pretty avid group of people who really high-five me a lot. Of course, there's a lot of people who push back on some of the things I say, but a lot of my followers were really quite disappointed, and they were sending me emails, and people who had my texts were also relaying information to me. But make a long story short, there was dozens of people who were writing LinkedIn demanding that they unrestrict my account. Mm-hmm. But I think in the end that helped a bit. Just people, I think maybe LinkedIn started getting tired a little bit. But this is a common thing that LinkedIn does. And it doesn't matter sometimes if you've got only 500 followers or 50,000. It's if you if you start to talk about topics that are not, it's usually criticism of left or center ideas, right? Those ones are usually will be what gets you restricted. They usually will let you back. Sometimes they'll give you a permanent ban that could last years. But and in the end, it's just a technique to intimidate you and to discourage you from using the platform to talk about their favorite narratives.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're very familiar at the Western Standard with the risks of publishing on social media. I mean, it's one thing when you are an old-fashioned newspaper. If you've got your printing press, you run it, you take your newspapers out and sell them, deliver them to the door. That's pretty hard to interfere with. But here, it can be somebody who's, does LinkedIn have fact checkers?
No, thank God.
What is for the benefit of people who may not be quite as into this stuff as we are? What is a fact checker?
Well, fact checker, you saw them come out really a lot in 2020. It's just if you post something, a link to Western Standard article that is flagged as having some keywords, say maybe talking about COVID lockdowns, they'll give you post that article. The algorithm automatically goes, oh, Western Standard article is talking about something that we don't want them talking about. So we're going to attach a warning label.
Yeah.
And some facts that are accepted.
The first time I heard of fact checkers, I thought of some genial old gentleman with glasses in a library with a bunch of leather-bound books, and something comes across the screen that he thinks is questionable, and he actually checks to see whether it is true or not. But the impression that I've got since, and you've only helped to solidify that impression, is that it's probably a 25-year-old kid whose last job was serving coffee with pink hair, and they just know what to take out, and that's what they do.
It's,
fact-checking, they're censoring.
To your point, the what my followers like the most of all the things that I talk about or the content that I create, they love it when I take a scientific paper, something that's hot off the press, and I will pull out a couple figures or two. I'll make a meme, a simple meme, because no one has the time of day to find their way around paywalls and to sit down and read a dry scientific paper. But they don't tell a story, Nigel, about a complex thing, to break it down so the average person can understand it. People just love that, so I'm a PhD scientist breaking it down, condensing it, providing relevant commentary on publications, and that gets me banned. It was not banned, but restricted.
Well, restricted. I mean, it's a ban.
Yeah, it's a ban.
It's a ban. You can't put your word out.
So finally, I'm glad I was allowed back, because my profile is also my curriculum vitae, right? If you want to see who I am and what I've done, you can go to my account. So if I ever get restricted from it, it's a bit of an inconvenience.
I think you said 14. You had 14,000 followers.
Yeah.
How many impressions in a year do you?
I had 10 million.
You had 10 million impressions on LinkedIn in a year?
In about 18 months. So it was about 7 million I had in 2024. But then something happened. I got restricted in the new year, and then I got restricted again. Each time I got allowed back. But when I am allowed back, my analytics plummet. They just get totally throttled. Yeah. Right. So like if I have someone share my post or my article, it'll often generate about 1,000 impressions, meaning about 1,000 people saw it go through their feed. It's about 1,000 to 1. But now that I'm back, I'm getting it's about 150 to 1. But do you know what's so cool? It's like my followers who are all high-fiving me for the last week about, hey, thank God you're back on. We missed your content. Now they are even more supportive now. The number of reshares I'm getting.
Okay, so you're obviously you've got a relationship going with the people who follow you. We all know Facebook will drop you like a
right,
like a brick if they don't like you. But is your experience typical on LinkedIn or a little on the unusual side?
It's a bit unusual because of the fact that I focus so much on science.
That's okay. That's the great thing. If we have a columnist here at the Western Standard who is unusual that he gets dropped off LinkedIn for writing about science, that tells me we are bringing a fresh perspective.
I think so.
Or you are bringing a fresh perspective to us. So in the last year, I know you've been writing a fair bit about coal mining, and you back 3 years ago you were very detailed on energy security with a focus on Alberta. At the time, Mr. Trudeau, the then Prime Minister, was insisting upon net zero by, I think, 2035. The provincial government was willing to work with it, but not to meet that particular goal. And you drew attention to the fact that we didn't have enough generating plants of the kind that you can just switch on when you need power. I mean, wind, solar, if it's a cold, dark night, you're not getting any power. So but you need generators. And you really brought that subject forward. And I saw very soon after that announcements from the provincial government. Maybe they were in the works all the way, I don't know. But it wasn't long after that they started announcing the development of more natural gas generated.
Yeah.
Now, how's the
correlation, causation? I don't know.
Yeah. How's it going now? Is Alberta catching up with its needs?
Well, power markets have improved substantially over the last, Daniel, Premier Smith has been in for 2 years plus, right? I don't know exact date. Some of the initiatives that she's had put through in her and her ministers, plus over the last year, there's been 2 large gas plant power generation facilities that have been commissioned, and that's really brought prices down, at least on the generation side. Transmission fees and distribution fees are still through the roof, which is like 40%, 35% of your monthly bill, but at least we've walked away from the edge of the abyss a bit in terms of risks of blackouts. And Premier Smith is a hardcore supporter of natural gas power generation. I support coal because I moved back to my roots in the last 6 years, 7 years. I moved out to Rockyford area, and just you can't drive around Alberta without understanding, number one, coal built this province. And, like there was a time in Rockyford where up to the early 80s where you could hop on a train, a coal-powered train, and it would take you basically to downtown Calgary for shopping. You could be home by the end of the day. And, it's rural Alberta is got deep roots in coal. And I'm very much, as a philosopher, as someone who sees down the road a long ways, at least I'd like to think I do. I think we're going in the wrong direction as a society, and I very, very much want to see a reinvestment in rural infrastructure, rural public services.
Got you kicked off LinkedIn. You're praising coal.
I'd say the most craziest things, according to some people. Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. You obviously like coal, and as a matter of fact, I do as well. But that's neither here nor there. Everybody says that coal is just a terrible generator of carbon dioxide. Natural gas is better. Well, that may be so. So why? Obviously, that argument doesn't interfere with your thinking much. What is it about coal that you like, and it allows you to overlook the knock on it that it's just going to burn up the earth?
Everything has costs and benefits. You can't look at just the negatives. You have to look at the positives as well. Case in point, the third highest cause of death in Canada is accidents by frontline healthcare workers. Only a mentally unstable person would focus on that fact and demand we shut down hospitals, right? But we've done that with coal.
I'm assuming that that I've never heard that. But did you say the third highest rate of accidents?
Yeah.
Among that line item of accidents,
it's a dangerous thing going into a hospital, an emergency room. You go spend a night in the ER. And you can see how easy it is for our overworked, critical frontline healthcare workers to make accidents and bad diagnoses by, just they're overworked or they're over,
Okay, so is it is it the patients who are dying or the frontline workers who are dying?
patients.
Patients. Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought for a minute you meant that was a dangerous profession.
Oh, no, sorry.
Mm.
No, it was just an example. We have to get back to looking at pros and cons, costs and benefits. And the benefits of coal are absolutely immense.
Mm.
In North America, if you look at the resource base of coal versus oil versus natural gas, there's more energy in coal than there is in oil and gas combined. And so the future is coal, unless we find an alternative primary energy source like uranium or thorium, right? And so I try to provide this a counter argument to remind people if we've lost perspective on coal, because it has some negative things. Some people think CO2 emissions is a bad thing. I don't. I think there's actually more benefits to CO2 emissions than any measurable negative. Definitely coal can be a problem when it comes to, if you don't got good technologies on your stack, on your exhaust, you can have pollution in certain cases. That was not the case here with Alberta's coal power plants when they were decommissioned early. They were operating quite well.
Okay, so this actually takes us to the stuff of the election that's coming up in 10 days. Mr. Carney has obviously been famous for a long time for being an advocate for shutting in energy, not just coal first, but also oil, also natural gas. What is he missing when he thinks that the emissions are going to fry the earth? He thinks that although Canada's contribution to the overall level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is pretty small, nevertheless, we should do it, I guess, to set a good example. So if you could have Mr. Carney here and you could talk to him for 2 minutes about it, knowing that he probably isn't going to agree with you anyway.
Right.
But what would you tell him? What is it that you would wish he understood or wish he would acknowledge?
Well, if I was to speak as a citizen, I probably wouldn't want to say on Hannaford what I would say to him. But as a scientist,
it's good for ratings.
I'd tell him to stick with monetary policy and quit trying to be a messiah, because he does not know the science. Mm-hmm. I don't even like using that word, but it's thrown around a lot. The truth of the matter is the literature is showing that satellite data has been monitoring every square inch of our top of the Earth's atmosphere now for 40 years. And I just posted an article, a publication that came out last year that shows that there is no evidence that heat flux out the top of the atmosphere is declining as we add more and more CO2 into the atmosphere. That's a problem for people like Carney, because he says your tailpipe is trapping heat in the Earth's atmosphere. So you should see less heat escaping into space. We're going to boil, we're going to burn, because you're trapping heat with greenhouse gases, so-called. But there's no evidence of it. In fact, what measurements show is the opposite. Heat flux out the top of the atmosphere is increasing quite fast. The Earth is releasing heat. There's no evidence of heat being trapped. The only place the evidence exists is in computer models. And one of my favorite climate scientists is Dr. Judith Curry. And on this topic, she just says we need to do a lot less modeling and a lot more observations.
Yes.
Get back to the basics. But there is no evidence of the boiling effect that the alarmists, politicians, activists, even academics who need the funding,
Well,
claim is there. It's just not.
okay, you say there's no evidence. People point out all the time that glaciers are melting. Oh, there's your evidence. How do you answer them?
Well, because there's a big difference between a warming climate and a climate that is warming because heat is being trapped by CO2 as an example gas.
Well, what is the difference? Because some people probably wouldn't say there's a distinction without it.
Here's the question I'll ask you. The question should help you answer your own question. In the morning, when you get up just before the sun rises, and you go outside for, start your car and come back out an hour later, it's gotten warm. Why has it gotten warm?
Sun's up.
Sunshine.
Mhm.
Exactly. Another thing that you'll notice is a night that has a lot of cloud cover versus a night that has no cloud cover. The cloudy night will have a warmer temperature.
Yeah.
So the crux of it is there's increase in sunshine, changes in cloud coverage, changes in the types of clouds, like a low stratiform cloud right on the deck, or cirrus cloud way up in the air. Different types of clouds scatter incoming shortwave radiation back to space, or let solar radiation hit the ground and warm up the dirt, melt glaciers. The hydrological cycle is driven by sunshine, and clouds is a mediator. And what we're finding from the satellite record now is that we don't understand the physics, clouds, cloud dynamics. And I'm really quite excited about it. We don't know the math, so we can't write a computer code to describe what it is we're seeing. But what we're seeing shows we don't have the answers.
Well, Joseph, I'm glad you're monitoring this. And, although it sounds very, it's a great discussion, but people say, well, tell me about the election. The fact is we are having an election, and this is an issue in the election as to how we deal with our atmospheric policy in the years going forward. I'm going to ask you this last thing, and then we're going to be out of time.
Okay.
But when you have watched what Mr. Poilievre has to say about this subject of climate change, are you at all reassured by his answers?
No.
Why not?
I'm not. I don't see a single conservative out there yet who is able to speak probably from a point of a genuine position on this topic. Maybe Scott Mosby, the closest I've found.
Yes.
Right, like last year, what was it? The rural municipalities of Saskatchewan all voted like 97% in favor to CO2 is not a pollutant. It is the gas of life. Net zero is not zero, like crazy talk, right? So it's very clear the conservative base in Saskatchewan wants the Saskatchewan party to go in a certain direction. But politicians have to pivot to the center. They have to represent the fuller spectrum of their citizens, right? So Pierre Poilievre is doing the same thing. He's trying to get elected, right? So he can't actually speak to the science, and at least he's not advocating for penalizing energy use.
And he is advocating for pipelines. So that's the
jobs
and jobs and all that goes with it.
Yeah.
Joseph, this has been great. Really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
For the Western Standard, I'm Nigel Hannaford.
What does success mean to you? Peace of mind? Financial freedom? Generational wealth? What do you see in your future? Investing in gold and silver can help you get there. Through our trading partners, New World Precious Metals offers safe, affordable, secure international accounts to help you meet your unique financial goals. Connect with one of our experienced team members. Invest in gold and silver today.